Hello everyone. Preview for the week, and this is the perhaps for me and quite a few others. I'm going to have a dog join me in a second. Is the biggest event of the year. It's the National Cross Country Championships. Although this year, on Saturday the 26th of February, it clashes with the British Indoor Championships. So I'm going to have a stab at that as well. Although I'm only going to be at one, even though Tunbridge have got a number racing over 800 metres, 1500 metres and 3000 metres at the Indoor Championships. But the National Cross Country at Parliament Hill is back, and almost a little bit emotional really after the cancellation of the National last year, to be back en masse with thousands of entries. Looking forward to, somebody described an epic number of battles at Parliament Hill, and with the rain and the weather we've had, potential mud bath, which brings with it perhaps different challenges than some events might offer. No super shoes, no super spikes, or if you do, it's going to cost you a bit because you're going to wreck them. But a great event, and perhaps the biggest club team event in the UK calendar, or certainly the English calendar, I should say, because it's the English National. So, but my focus of attention is just going to be on the senior races. Otherwise, I'd bore the hell out of you and be here for hours going through all the age groups. So I've done a bit of research on the senior men and the senior women, and intend just going through the individual and the team situation there. So the senior men's over 12k, Parliament Hill, the iconic first hill over the top, with another hill following within 800 metres as it sorts itself out. I haven't seen the course maps yet. Don't know if it's 2 or 3 laps. 12k though, and everything's up for grabs. Very difficult to tell who will actually run on the day. I can tell you who's entered, and team managers worth their salt will have done a little bit of research and communication with athletes, because it's £10 a head. So people wouldn't have just entered on a whim, although it would have been done a few weeks ago. But let's go through. I mean, let's just remind ourselves of the regional championships on the men's side. I should say, just give you an idea of the scale. There's 3,037 entries on the men's side, 269 teams, and 1,476 entries on the women, 222 teams. 6 to score in the men, 4 to score in the women, and all to play for. Really does depend who rocks up on the day, who's fit and healthy, and which clubs have managed to get their top runners out. So going on the senior men, the South team-wise went Southampton, Highgate, Tunbridge, with Andy Maud, Ben Alcock and Alex Tewton, the 3 in it, the top 3 medalists. Midlands went Bristol, Notts and Tipton, Dougie Musson, Jack Gray and Jack Miller. The North went Salford, Leeds and Hallamshire, although very close. Hugo Milner, Nigel Martin and Daniel Howarth from Matlock were the medalists. And going through, let's have a look at the teams. Aldershot, perhaps stronger than they were in the Southern on paper based on their entries, but perhaps not at their, well, definitely not at their absolute best. Got a lot of road runners in the club now, some targeting marathons and things like that, and perhaps it doesn't sit well doing the national cross country alongside doing some of the road races. Bedford, potentially stronger with the likes of Jack Goodwin, Dan Jarvis coming in and others. Bristol, again, potentially stronger than they were in the regionals. And Cambridge, we'll have Jack Gray, perhaps Norman Shreve, marathon runner Will Mycroft, Tom Keane, and the like. Very difficult to tell who's going to turn up, but they've got a strong team on paper. And then Derby, to add to Derby's squad, other than Hugo Milner, who won the Northern, you've got Ben Connor. I've tried to find out whether Ben's intending to race. I suspect he isn't, because again, he's another one with marathon aspirations, and there are risks involved, I guess, through racing on thick mud around Parliament Hill. So Ben Connor, an entry to look out for. There's perhaps more famous ones to be mentioned shortly. Then we've got Callum Johnson, Gateshead. Seen an interview with him that George Mallet did, published today, went out on Twitter, etc., and other social media. Callum Johnson won the last National, which was at Nottingham in 2020, loves the National, and will be back to defend his title. Birchfield could have been strong, but their top guys are not on the entry list. Hercules Wimbledon, well, I'm sure he will love it. Had a great turnout in the Southern and be quite strong. Highgate should be stronger, bringing in the likes of Jacob Allen and Tahar Ghaffari, although he's not raced since Liverpool at the end of November in the European trials. As I said, one or two perhaps more famous entrants includes Alex Yee, the Olympic silver medalist in the triathlon, who missed the Kent Champs earlier in the year because he'd had about COVID. Now, whether Alex has this on his radar or not, I don't know, but he's on the entry list. And again, Kent AC might not enter him unless there was some intention of perhaps racing it at the time of the entries. And then we've got Leeds, who thorn in our side at Tunbridge, because Tunbridge have won 3 of the last 4 men's titles. The one we didn't was at Leeds, when Leeds galvanised themselves and got all their, well, not all, but most of their top runners out and pulverised us. But again, another club that has some real top-notch runners who are perhaps focused on the roads. People like Phil Sessamon. And then we've got Emile Caress, who on his day, having broken the UK 10K record recently. Did he break it, or was he second to Mo Farah? 27:30 something, really quick anyway, or 27:40. Emile, top class distance runner. If he rocked up, he'd be a real threat for the individual title. I'm not sure. I've heard rumours both ways that he might be running, he might not be running. And then they can add Linton Taylor, who's a previous medalist, to their squad. So on their day, Leeds one of the strongest men's teams in the country and should not be overlooked. Shaftesbury, perhaps not as strong as they could be, or certainly not as strong as they could be. So I'm perhaps discounting them based on their entry list. Southampton, who are now the Southern Championships, could well be even stronger because they could add Mohammed and Zach Mohammed to two who could challenge for the individual medals to their squad. And if they did, they would take some beating, I feel. So looking out for Southampton and any news on their squad. And then Southend have got a couple of really good athletes. Adam Hickey, haven't seen much of him on the cross country this season, but he's won the national before, and top class athlete on his day. And they've got Tom Frith, who was top 5 in the Southern Championships recently. And then perhaps the most famous person that I've spotted on the entry list is from Woodford Green. I'll give you a few seconds. Who do you think that might be? He's a world champion, multiple world champion. No, look out for him in the green and white hoops of Woodford Green. Ronnie O'Sullivan, the multiple world snooker champion. He is on the entry list. And he loves his running. So we shall see if he turns out. I'll be looking out for him. So there you go. Should I make predictions? Oh, I should mention Tunbridge, my own club. We've got a solid squad out. Hopefully we'll do well. It really depends how they all run. Got a chance of getting in the medals at least. That's what all I say. But a lot depends at the national. Who's up for it? Who's going to deal with the thick mud and battling away for the odd point here and there? Yeah, it's a different challenge, but an exciting challenge for all of us that will be there to witness it. Turning to the women, that's over. 8K, yeah, 8K. You got the South was the team medals were Aldershot, London, Heathside, and Basingstoke. With the women, Jess Gibbons, Neve Brown, and Beth Hawkin from Belgrave. And the Midlands went Birchfield, Charnwood, and Stoke, with Kate Holt, Lily Partridge, and Kate Maltby, the medalists. And the North went Vale Royal, Hallamshire, which was really close, and then Sale, with Eleanor Bolton from Ribble Valley winning the title from Sophie Turver from Wirral, and Georgia Taylor Brown, the triathlete, was third. So those were the regional medalists. Looking at it, I would say perhaps Aldershot got a bit of depth there. They've got a very solid four, whichever way you look at it, unless they completely fall apart. So I put them in there. Basingstoke got all four scorers entered from who competed at the Southern and got the bronze medals there. Bracknell, Amelia Quirk is on the entry list, but she's also on the entry list for the indoor 3,000 metres British Championships. So I suspect Amelia, having run a very good 5,000 indoors just before Christmas, might go for the 3,000 indoors at Birmingham. Cambridge on the women's side, nowhere near what they could be if they put all their top runners out, so I'm going to put them to one side. City of Stokes, Katie Holt, who won the Midlands, isn't even entered for the national. Hallamshire are okay. Leeds got a small squad there, headed perhaps by Bronwyn Owen, a previous medalist. They've only got 5 athletes entered, so they need to make sure they get there for at least 4 out to score, but potentially a decent team. London Heathside, big up to London Heathside, 34 women entered, and they got the silver medals behind Aldershot in the Southern. So definitely ones to watch, and something going on there at London Heathside. Someone's doing a good job there to galvanise all those ladies. Reading have Jess Gibbons, the Southern champion, entered, and I'd expect her to be amongst the leading contenders, with Sales, Georgia Taylor Brown also back, and entered as an individual is Eleanor Bolton from Ribble Valley, who won the North. So yeah, very difficult to know who might win. I mean, Pippa Wolven from Wickham is entered as well. Jess Gibbons, Eleanor Bolton, Tunbridge have Lucy Reed and 1 or 2 others in there as well. Not going to be at full strength, unfortunately. But yeah, no hot favourite. I would have thought is a real opportunity to someone to take a national title. It's definitely diluted between the road, the indoor track, and the cross country, with events like the Intercounties also taking centre stage in a few weeks' time. Parliament Hill's a big test. Who's prepared to flounder in the mud a bit, keep battling, not give up? Yeah, it's going to be a great day, and so good to see everybody back after what we've been through with the pandemic. I'm not going to give a tip. Oh, well, shall I give a tip? I'll give it a go. I think Andy Maud could be in the medals, because I think he'll run in the men's side. I think Jess Gibbons and Eleanor Bolton will be in the medals on the women's side. Emile Caress if he runs, or Alex Yee if he runs, or Mohammed if he runs, will be right up there contending for the medals. So would Ben Connor. But perhaps of all those running, I think Andy Maud's got a fair chance. If I had to put a bit of money on who will actually rock up, give it a go, not be fazed by the mud, and be out there to really, really try and win, Andy Maud might be a tip. Although the odds might be reasonably good if I was to put money on. Let's have a quick go at the British champs. I'm not going to look at every event. I'm going to look at the 800, 1500 and 3000s. And starting with the 800, and when I last looked a day or so ago, the men's 800, there were 21 athletes entered, and the women's 20 athletes. So I suspect it might come down to 18, three heats of 6, which would mean the winner and 3 fastest losers going through, which always makes it interesting. Some in the men's are also down for the 1500, but I'm assuming Charlie Grice, Neil Gourley, Archie Davis will all go for the 1500, which would leave Carl Langford, Elliot Giles, Guy Learmonth as perhaps the standout names for medals. Although Elliot himself might go for the 1500. I'm intrigued there. He might just leave it. He might just leave it in the 800. So they'd be 3 that you'd expect perhaps to be the medalists there. Although no doubt somebody with the cutthroat nature of the indoor 800 is going to jump in there and do something. On the women's side, well, after this weekend, you've got to say Keely Hodgkinson's the red hot favourite. Gemma Reeky's entered, but also for the 1500, and she had a very difficult time over 1,000 metres yesterday. So it'd be interesting to see which event she chooses, let alone how she's going to run. And the other standouts ones are probably Jenny Selman, who's run 2:0.7, Izzy Boffey, who's done 2:01.37, and Gemma Finch, who's done 2:02.65 in the USA. So maybe Boffey, Selman, Reeky, Hodgkinson, if they all do it, and Finch are 5 that stand out there. So Elliot Giles runs, I'll pick him to win. If not, I'll pick Carl Langford. And on the women's side, I'll go Keely Hodgkinson. On the 1500, you've got 20 men entered, 19 women. Again, as I've said, some have entered the 800. Certainly Charlie Grice, Archie Davis, Neil Gourley are some of the favourites. And you've got Elliot Giles, who I mentioned in the 800, plus Piers Copeland, who ran really well at the weekend. So perhaps, actually, is George Mills entered? Haven't got him on my notes here, but he should have done, because George ran really well. He was the only one who really went with the pace in the Muller Grand Prix at the weekend. Just bear with me a second, just doing my research here. Last minute research coming up. Let me stop for a second. Well, that was appropriate. My wife, who's isolating and has been for over a week now upstairs, phoned me up whilst I was researching George Mills, so hence the little break. But George Mills hasn't entered. He's not entered for the British Champs 1500, despite running really well yesterday. Gave it a real good shot. Although he was pipped by Piers Copeland's fast finish in the end. And Piers in a tactical race is going to be a danger. It's just whether he can commit early enough if somebody else sets the pace or takes it out hard a little way out from the finish line. If Elliot Giles does it, the way Elliot's running, I'd put money on him. Maybe Neil Gourley was suffering from jet lag coming back from the States for the Muller Grand Prix, and he would be in with a shout otherwise. So I'd go. Oh, I don't know. I think if Elliot runs, he'll win. Um, I'm going to go with Piers Copeland if it's tactical, which is a big shout. And again, decent odds, I would think, if there was money to put on it. On the women's side, it could be a really good race, the women's, actually. To say, Gemma Reeki's also entered the 800. That's where she seems to have been focused on, having done a fast 600 in South Africa as well recently. But Gemma would probably be the red hot favourite if she ran, because Laura Muir's been injured, or is injured. And then you've got Adele Tracy and Reve Walcott Nolan both ran 4:10 recently, although Reve didn't finish the 1500 at the Muller Grand Prix. Adele ran pretty decent 800 there, so he's in good form. Then you've got Erin Wallace, who's done 4:13. And then also had Holly Archer, although Holly's fighting for form a little bit at the moment. So I think Gemma would win. Gemma Reekie would win if she was in it. Erin Wallace might be a dark horse there, her training partner. Again, looking for decent odds for some of these winners, and yeah, very, very difficult one to predict. But that should be a good race, interesting race, that one. And then finally onto the 3000s. 19 athletes in the men's, 18 athletes in the women's. A whole bunch on the men's side have run between 7:30. Was it 7:37, 7:44? That's Tom Mortimer, Jermaine Coleman, James West. You got no Andy Butchart in there, but you got Mark Scott, who's done 12:57 for 5,000 indoors recently. And then we got Jack Rowe, who's got a PB over 3,000 at 7:42, and plenty of others who've run well inside 8 minutes. Probably, the favourites would be Mark Scott, Jack Rowe, and Tom Mortimer, based on previous results, times, championship performances, etc. Depends how it's run. Can't see it going to the last lap. I think a number of them will be invested in trying to get the pace moving the second half at least. So I don't think it'll be there for the sitting kickers. It'll be who's prepared to hang on at quite a ferocious pace at some point. So again, Mark Scott, total star, and red hot favourite, I would say. And I wouldn't bet against him. On the women's side, Amy Louise Markov and Jenny Nesbitt have both run 8:44. Verity Ockerton's done 8:51 and Izzy Fry's done 8:58. And then you've got Amelia Quirk in there, who ran a really good 5,000 before Christmas. So you got and Amy Louise Markov ran a very well over 1,500 metres in the Muller Grand Prix yesterday. So clearly on form. Jenny Nesbitt, more 3,000, 5,000 type. So you probably go with Amy Louise Markov, who won the European Championships, 3,000 metres indoors, or perhaps Amelia Quirk. But perhaps Amy Louise is the favourite. Reve Walcott Nolan's also entered that, as well as the 1,500, but might be scratching her head and trying to regain some top form in the next week. So anyway, that's it. That's the 800, 1,500, 3,000 at the British Champs. Selections are made on the Monday following. That's the 28th of February. Great Britain take 2 athletes with the qualifying times. Only the winner of the trials gets an automatic selection, and they can take 3 athletes if there's a winner of a World Indoor Tour event. But so that's it. Two totally opposite challenges. That's the National Cross Country and the British Indoor Championships. Sometimes, even at Tunbridge, we've had people that have got a couple of top 5s in the Indoor 3000 one week and then gone out and contributed to the National Cross Country winning team the following week. It can be done, but not this year, because they're both on the same weekend, which is unfortunate, and sorry that one or two really good athletes have had to make a choice. But there you go. Pick your runners and riders. Shame you can't put your bets on, but that would be really, really interesting. And let's see how it all pans out next weekend. Cheerio.